Okay, looks like we should be good to go.
Like it.
Okay, it looks like it's 7:34. Looks like there's a quorum present. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Do a roll call. John Mello doesn't appear to be here. Lee,
I'm here.
Tim,
Here,
Peter,
Here.
Lisa,
Here.
and Cynthia.
Here.
Okay. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
First order of business is we got to pick a scribe. So I think who here hasn't done it yet?
Yeah, I haven't done it.
Will you be willing to do it tonight for us, Peter?
Sure.
Okay. Scribe. All right, Peter. Excellent. Thank you.
Do we have
did
to roll
everybody-
call that?
I don't think so. It's just a volunteer. I don't think we have to vote on something like that. So just order business. Did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes that were submitted?
Yes.
And I'll go around to see if anybody has any corrections or anything, and then we'll vote to accept them if that's the case. Lee, do you have anything?
Nope, I'm good with them. I vote aye.
Tim,
I'm good.
Peter,
I'm good.
Lisa,
Good here.
and Cynthia.
Good with them.
All right. Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented. Do I have a second?
So moved.
Second.
That was second by Lee. All those in favor? I'm going to go through the roll call again. Lee,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
and Peter, the chairman, aye as well. So those are accepted unanimously. I'll get those off to along with the other ones, I'll get those to the town clerk. That'll be great.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody for that. Everybody's been doing a great job on those minutes. The next thing on the agenda is the review of the existing bylaws. Tim, if you could bring up that spreadsheet that we have going and share your screen. Oh, boy.
Yeah, so I'll zoom in and we can go through it.
Yeah.
It might,
Yeah, I noticed there was a lot to it when I was looking at it on my computer.
yeah, I just got it sent to everybody. So if this isn't good for you, you can follow along on the email that I sent right before this meeting started. I think we can try to go across. It might be easier if we just kind of compare maybe sections as we do this. I'm going to open to what you guys think with all the information, because the columns might be easier just to kind of compare columns in the same topic.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter too much, the town. It just matters kind of what the substance of the bylaw is. So we could just take each column and kind of go through and see kind of what we think. But looks like we don't have anything for Ashland or Auburn.
For hours allowed, we do.
Okay.
So Ashland has hours dependent on activity. Bellingham does a Monday through Saturday, and they have a daytime and a nighttime split. And then Sunday and legal holidays are the same schedule, where they restrict hours from noon to 9 p.m., which seemed like an interesting time to restrict noon.
Yeah, it does.
Kind of saying that people are doing things in the morning. Billerica is, I guess, Monday through Sunday by this nomenclature, 7 in the morning to 1800, which would be 6 p.m.
6 p.m. Yeah. Yep.
So Billerica is limited at 6 p.m. I'm kind of like, technically these probably go together for days and times. So it looks like Monday through Saturday has its own breakout, and then Sunday's its own time. I don't think it's in our best interest to do every single one. So I don't know if there's specific things we should call out as we see it as we move down. But I know we want to try to use this as a guide, but I don't know what's the best way for us to feel comfortable as a group to look at this and digest this information. And if it's good for me to keep going through it like this, or if it's better for us to kind of just talk about our research that we found, or, you know, as I'm reading through this, I'm open to what you guys want to think.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree that it's a ton of information. It's all over the place. It's going to take a long time to digest it and kind of go over each one. I don't know that we have a relatively tough time constraint. Just to go off topic a little bit, but I know further down the agenda we talk about the survey. I did reach out to the town about the survey, and what we did notice is there is, you know, we got to have this thing ready for first week in February, so basically like a month, and we also have Christmas in between it. So, I mean, I think if we got to keep that in mind, I think when we're you know, we can get a ton of, we all want to get as much information as possible, and, you know, talk to every resident that we could possibly can. I think that would be wonderful, but I think in reality, in the real world, I don't think we're going to be able to do a lot of that, only because we still have to hold 3 public meetings, and we have to write the bylaw. We have to write how we're going to present it to the selectmen. Like, we have a ton of work, and to be honest with you, I don't know how we can do it and make a huge document out of it. I don't know. I think we might have to just kind of pick the things that we can live with right now, and I don't know if they can revisit it in a year, and maybe, you know, fix it if it's broken, or if it worked all right. I don't know how we feel. I'd like to just kind of open that up for discussion a little bit. Go ahead, Cindy. I see you have your hand up.
Well, last week we talked about towns that were meaningful to us, the surrounding towns, and some towns like us, and perhaps we could make the spreadsheet just show those for our first pass. I mean, I agree. Our time is incredibly short. I mean, it took them months to pick this committee, but the time frame hasn't changed.
Right.
So I think we have to be very focused. And I think last week we kind of agreed on the towns we really wanted to look at.
I think the towns we really wanted to look at are included in the spreadsheet.
Right, but
Well,
rather than going down through every single town that has it, if we can just put the towns together that we were kind of assigned.
Well, okay. Yeah, it would be tedious to go through every single cell on this spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I mean, as I recall in the meeting, we talked about the surrounding towns, and then I think we had 2 towns that had like similar population and layout at Southborough. Now we got like Nantucket, we got things, I mean, they're just, we can't consider. We just don't have the resources or the time to actually do all that. So,
Can hi.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Hi. I'm thinking that, you know, we now have a sense of what some of these towns are when they're restricting activity around timeframes. And I think we need to look to our committee, and we need to think about the opportunity, not the opportunity. We need to figure out what's a good guideline for our residents for time for peace and relaxation. We go off to work. You know, a lot of these activities may happen during the summer, and, you know, when should the activities that are happening in our neighborhoods, be it landscaping or construction, deliveries, etc., when should they end so that we can have the time for peace and relaxation and enjoy the outdoors that we have for those few months? well, for those few months during the summer where we might be a little more exposed to noises. When it's wintertime, we're usually inside. We may not, the decibel levels probably won't affect us as much, but I think we could, as a committee, could take a look at what's been created for other towns, and we can decide what's a good guideline for our residents for their health and well-being.
I think that's a move in the right direction. Obviously, that's something that's come up on the list of about times. If you guys are all comfortable, we can talk about that. We can look through the list here, see what other towns are doing. Hopefully we can come up with something that we can all agree on and that we're all comfortable with as far as times go. At least we can get that kind of off the table and figure out, you know, do we want to do days of the week, weekends, how we want to do it. So, Tim, if you could just go through the hours part of it.
Okay, so
Pick up a couple, you know, the surrounding towns, and I think we'll see what we got from there. Maybe we can get enough there to make some headway.
Okay, so if you guys are okay with it, I'm just gonna kind of cherry pick some of the towns around. I hid a lot of the columns that were that we didn't fill in, so that way it doesn't look so daunting as we kind of go through this. So we kind of hit on a couple of these already. Ashland's right beside us, so their hours depend on activity. Bellingham's not far from us. They do Monday through Saturday with a daytime and a nighttime thing. Sunday and legal holidays are a different schedule.
So what are the times that they use, Tim? That was what, 7 to 9?
7 a.m. to 9 p.m. are the times that they use for Monday through Saturday. And then Sunday and legal holidays are noon to 9 p.m.
What do you guys think about those times right there?
9 p.m. is too late.
Yes,
we-
I
I
agree.
agree, 9 is too late.
Can we,
How about 8 o'clock?
No,
I think that's too late too.
that's too late.
so I have a different opinion. I think that 9 is actually maybe too early, especially on summertime hours, because you have sports activities, you have all kinds of things going on. People are outside. And Lisa, you had a really good point a minute ago about time in winter and summer. Summertime has leaves on trees, which absorb a lot of sound, a lot more sound than people may realize. So I would almost say that winter, you're more susceptible to the extra noise than you would be the summertime.
No.
So
There's less
No,
activity.
you're not outside. And
There's
yeah,
less
there's less
activity.
activity too. Like I'll give you an example. We've had construction going on in our neighborhood for probably the past 3 years, and it still hasn't stopped. There's 2 more houses that are expecting to go up. And we were outside, and we hear the pop of the nail gun and the compressor going, and it's 7:30 at night. We just got home around 6, and we want to sit outside and enjoy dinner during those few months that we have that we can sit outside, and we have to listen to that. And I don't think that's right. They've started at 7 in the morning. They're going till 7:30 at night. I feel that they should be done by 6 o'clock.
So to that point, if that was your neighbor working on their own personal house, would you have the same feeling? Or would you have a different feeling since it's not a paid contractor?
I'm hoping that they would bring their compressor indoors and not leave it outside. And they don't have their windows wide open and doing whatever they're doing to annoy neighbors. But, we're probably listening to it too from 7 until 7:30 because they're there all day.
Yeah. Not
Shouldn't-
just
It's noise. It shouldn't make any difference who's creating it.
Well, well, I joined this committee because I'm a homeowner that does a lot of my own work on my own house. I work,
And so do I.
and I wouldn't be able to start working on my house until reasonably 6 o'clock at night. So my perspective for where I feel about this is slightly different because I am doing my own things, and some of these projects that I would be doing wouldn't start until reasonably 6 o'clock on most nights. And I only have a limited number of hours to do it. So I'm bringing that perspective forward, and I think balancing the two. And if my neighbor came over and said, "Hey, do you mind stopping or something?" They're my neighbor. I'm willing to listen to them as long as it's a reasonable request. I'm happy to oblige. It's just one of those things where trying to find the balance between a homeowner who works a day job
Mhm.
and somebody who's a contractor who's making noise and doesn't really care about the neighbors. There's a balance.
Right. Lee, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, in the, I reviewed, Framingham and Natick, and they both separated out noise from construction and the hours for construction from other kinds of noise, including landscaping kinds of noises. And I mean, I would see room for, two kinds of compromises that we could potentially put in this. The first is to adopt something that for routine construction by commercial firms, like I think Framingham was 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. on weekdays, and I think that Natick went a little bit later. And so one thing would be to have something that was, reasonable working hours for commercial construction companies. Those same limits potentially could still apply to homeowners doing their own work, except that, from my perspective, I see, the noise that a commercial company makes is going to have far more work people using far more tools. And, I don't know if, Tim, you use compressors and other kinds of things or just make nail guns. But I would also see the potential role for that, we could write in, exceptions so that a homeowner could, make an application for the variance so that they would be able to do as part of their permitting to get permission to go later. And we could write, the latest time that might be acceptable. So say we write that you can work until 9 o'clock if you get it as part of your, so I don't know that that's the answer, but something along those lines to create an exception where we treat homeowners different than a large construction company that may have multiple people making noise.
Okay. Yep. Peter, you have your hand up?
You're muted, Peter.
You got to unmute yourself, Peter.
There we go. Okay, we're making some assumptions here. You're assuming that a neighbor's going to have a problem with you working on your house yourself and will call in a complaint to the police. But that's an assumption that's being made up front. And secondly, I think it's Lee, you're assuming that this bylaw is going to include variances. As soon as we allow variances, you might as well just take the concept of a noise bylaw and throw it away, because you're just undoing, you're legislating something and then you're giving workarounds for it. And, everybody will apply for a workaround and effectively you'll have nothing. I hate to see that. We're jumping into that already, and we haven't even decided on days and hours yet.
Peter, I worked, obviously, like I said before, I worked in Westboro. We had hours of construction, and that was defined as construction was defined as somebody being paid to do the work.
Yeah.
And then we had hours where a homeowner could do it, and there was a little bit, like, for instance, a homeowner could work on their house on a Sunday, where you couldn't have construction on a Sunday. So, I mean, we have to build something that's gonna be fair to everybody. We can't just limit everything, a hard line. It has to be somewhat fair. It has to be accommodating to Tim, but it also has to be accommodating to Lisa with her concerns. So I think we can come up with something just like Westboro did. Construction is determined to be paid work. It can only be done on Monday through Friday, certain hours, and then on Saturday, certain hours, and not on Sunday. Anybody can work on their house at any time other than that, but it's at the discretion of being, how would you say, disturbing the peace. So if you're doing it at 2 a.m, obviously, but there's going to be a little bit of gray area, and it may also depend on how well you get along with your neighbors and how loud it is, and what you're actually doing. But I think that would probably be a reasonable thing to do. And I think, keep in mind, this is going to have to be voted on and accepted at a town meeting, where if it's too much of a hard line, people, just like last time, people are just going to say no.
Yep.
It was too restrictive, and they're going to go, that's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way I feel. And I think the facts kind of lead that way. It's worked in other towns. It's worked in a neighboring town. I think it would address Lisa's concern and Tim's concern. Does anybody think about that? Go ahead, Tim.
Okay. I really do think that this last round that was at the town meeting, the reason I'm here today is because of where the line was being drawn for hours and restrictiveness. I do think if we could agree on a construction difference, and Peter, you had a piece there about permits, or I don't know if that was you, maybe it was Lee that said something about permits a second ago. Some of the things I've done, I've painted my entire house. I've replaced the wood clapboard. You don't need a permit for that as far as I'm aware. I put a sidewalk in. You don't need a permit for putting a replacement sidewalk in. I cut bricks. I did all that sort of stuff. It's good for my neighbors. It's good for the town. It's good for me. It's not permitted work, so you're not going to go through the same process as if you did the other. But if we could agree on a contractor paid or unpaid thing, I think that's a good way of doing it. If we did some other delineation between I don't want to say a licensed and insured company, but I don't know how you could say homeowner versus professional company. But if there was a way to delineate the two.
Yeah, if you're getting paid for it, that's how you determine it. If the person that's doing the work is getting paid, and that's different than a person is not getting paid.
Okay. I would find some level of meeting in the middle with that way of thinking.
Lisa, I see you have your hand up. What do you think?
So I was just looking at Chicopee, and it says in here, under construction, it said, it kind of makes a division between, you like a professional coming in and doing the work, you got your permits, so on and so forth. But it says, prior sentence does not apply on weekends to private residents for which hired contractors are not employed. So maybe we can come up with some guidelines around that. I totally understand, like Tim, you may be doing a sidewalk and it may take you 2 days to do that. It may happen on the weekend. It may happen for an hour or so after work. But you're probably, your wet saw is probably going, it may be a little loud, but hopefully your neighbor understands that. But these large construction companies that come in and, do their work, they're there the whole day. You're only going to be doing it for a short amount of time. And, I think that's pretty reasonable. So maybe we just do create a separate little section that says that if you're doing work on your own house, these are the hours you need to be done. Let's say you need to be done by 8 or something.
So just if I can reply to what you just said there, because I do have a first an example to kind of base this off of. I did the sidewalk in the summertime. I ended at 9 o'clock, 9:30 at night. That's because I rented a saw and tools for the weekend, and they had to be returned on Monday morning. So I literally had only 2 days to get the entire job done. And the saw was a very loud, big saw. My neighbor did come out and say, "Hey, it's 9 o'clock at night. Do you mind pushing that off till tomorrow?" And I said, "Yeah, no problem." And I put the saw away.
Yeah.
So, there's a certain level of that. But yes, I went till it was dark because that's when I had opportunities to do it.
I mean, I think, I think that just gives you an example right there that even your neighbor came out and said something.
Yeah.
9 o'clock is
Hopefully
late.
you've got neighbors that will do that, but some
Yeah.
neighbors don't do that, unfortunately.
Right. Lee, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just on my other screen here and looking at this list of things that, noise complaints over the last few years. And there are very few construction related complaints, unless, the pickup trucks or something turned out to be construction stuff. I'm in favor of what, separating the paid contractor versus, the homeowner and having different limits for them. If one bases, the amount of complaints that would need to be enforced by this noise bylaw based upon this log of things, I'm going to say that most people are either, just putting up with the noise, like it sounds like Lisa is, or as Tim's neighbor is, coming over and having a word with him and resolving it that way. In either case, the noise bylaw is not going to make much difference. So I think that we could probably get away with, putting something in where we separate the two, and then people would be able to, once they know about it, they'd be able to choose whether they wanted to call the enforcement agency.
Right. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if we could all work out like Tim did with his neighbor, we wouldn't be sitting here tonight. There wouldn't be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's for when there are problems and the people don't agree, that's when you need the bylaw.
I'm just saying
Go
that I
ahead.
don't see it in the police log.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, because they didn't call because Tim took care of it.
They don't call because they know it's a waste of time because they've called before and they give up. Voice of experience.
I see.
Yeah. So those numbers can be very misleading.
Yeah, I don't think they're anything to rely on, and certainly looking at those logs. And I actually have a very big concern about those logs after you sent those to us, because there's a few calls from 2019 and 2020 that I made. And there's actually one that was a very significant call and it didn't make it on the log. And the police officer came out and talked to us. And it happened on July 4th and it's not in the log. And I have talked to other people during this process of the citizens petition, and they have said to me, we don't bother calling because we know they can't do anything about it. And after that July 4th, I was so upset that I just couldn't pick up the phone anymore and call the police. And there was even a time before that they just were pointing at different people. And there was nothing coming from it. And I was
Lisa,
very upset.
Was your complaint about the construction hours, or was it?
Yes, it was about construction trucks.
Okay.
Yep.
So
July
was
4th, the police came out. There were 4 people on the street talking to the police officer, and he did not record anything in the log, obviously. So I have to wonder if the police process is appropriate, if things are getting put into the log, if some things are being missed. And I really don't think that looking at that log is even an appropriate measure of understanding what the issue is about noise in this town. I would have to say that the 80+ people and the people that showed up to 80 plus people that signed the citizens petition have told us that they're concerned about noise in town. And I know that people have said, we don't bother calling because we know the police can't do anything about it.
Okay.
Can I ask, we've talked about evening times. Do we have a consensus around what is too early? Do we have any feeling, like there's a couple of these that are talking about 7 a.m. Couple of them say 8 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday.
I like that. I think 7 a.m. during the week and 8 o'clock on weekends is a fair start.
So if we can, I put a couple of things here. If we can try to coalesce on what I started typing, I can make it bigger if I need to.
Now, is this for contractors or for everybody?
Everybody.
I split it up right now, so it's up to us if we think we should change it. But I have homeowner hours and I have contractor hours written
Yep.
here. So if we do decide we'd like to pursue the two paths,
Okay.
then we can pick a number we coalesce on.
Yep.
And if we would like to make it one because we think it can be one, then we can approach that. So,
So I think for homeowner hours on a weekend, it should be 8 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday.
At the earliest.
I would agree with that.
think
And
it's-
contractor hours would be, I would think 8 o'clock on Saturday as well, but no hours on Sunday.
I
Right.
agree.
Sundays and holidays.
Yeah, so, yeah, yep.
Because people definitely have the holidays off, and who wants to have their holiday off
Mm-hmm.
and be home and be
Okay, can-
disturbed by,
Monday you get
you know,
to sleep late, yeah.
Yep.
can-
Go
Yeah.
ahead, Cindy. I see you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, we went from talking about construction to now we've got contractor hours,
Well,
which
that-
is, are we talking construction or contractors?
So
contract paid, people
a
paid for their
contractor
work.
does construction. So we're
Yeah.
delineating.
But there
we're
are
delineating-
contractors who
No.
don't do construction.
They also do
landscapers.
landscaping.
Yeah, but
so here it is. So this is the line I think we should look at. Maybe I should try to lift it right now. The prior sentence does not apply on weekends to private residences for which hired contractors are not employed. So I think there's something here to lift about private residents for which contractors are not employed, and then maybe something different. I don't know what the other word would be, but I think if we change homeowner hours to private residents for which hired contractors are not employed, and that was the word,
sure.
there's something
Maintenance.
there. Lisa, this was one that you did, right? So do you have some more?
I think I pulled that directly from it. So I think it just makes sense. I mean, maybe what we should do is we should divide this up and we should say, okay, construction contractors, and then we can go to, with Cindy's concern about landscapers, we can do that as another section. And with that, there's homeowners that do their own landscaping, and we can come up with hours that
Yep.
way. And I think it just helps people understand it.
No, I don't think we need the complication to separate out the various professions.
Okay,
A landscape contractor is
Right.
making noises just like a building contractor
that's
is.
true.
I would
It's
agree.
just a different
That's true,
equipment
Peter.
generating the noise.
Yep.
Yep. I would think that, yeah, exactly. I think the delineation should be whether it's Harry homeowner doing it or it's a guy getting paid to do it. I think we
Right.
gotta,
Yeah.
we gotta sway towards the Harry homeowner a little bit, give them a little bit of break. But the
Mhm.
guy that's making money at it, we have to be a little bit more restrictive. So
Today,
I think
today
this
the
is-
homeowner has no rights.
Right. All right, so let's figure out hours. So if,
right. So is everybody in agreement on this, the hours that we have here, the 8 a.m. on Saturday, 7 during the week and
No, I'm
I-
not. I'm not. Contractors start, typically their crews start gathering at 7, they're on the jobs by 7:30. I think if you're gonna limit any kind of contractor from working, the 8 o'clock is too late. It's
But that's, we're only,
7:30 is more
we're only
That's
talking
on
on
a Saturday.
Saturday.
It's for
It's only
Saturday.
It's just a
Yeah,
Saturday.
well, typically if contractors are working on a Saturday, they want to get in and they want to get their guys out as soon as possible because they're all on overtime by Saturday.
They're
Well,
impacting the
It's the same
taxpayer.
amount of, it's the same amount of overtime if they come in at 6 and leave at 2, or come in at 8 and leave at 4. It's the
Right.
same amount of overtime. It's the same amount of work. It's just the time that it's
I would
happening.
like to look at what the other towns, the towns around us do on Saturdays.
Okay, so I'll lead real quick through that.
No, I think it's a mistake to only look at the towns around us. Westboro's law only governs construction activity. It's very limited. There are plenty of noise bylaws out there.
Framingham.
But,
So let's just go through the effort real quick. It's not going to take us that long to look at 5 towns or so.
okay, thanks.
Framingham, Saturday, construction demolition only between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m.
Yeah.
I'm in this column. I'm not going to go all the way through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Marlboro, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Saturday, no Sundays, holidays not addressed. Nantucket,
Hopkinton, did Hopkinton have
Natick, 8 to
something?
6.
Natick is 8 to 6 on Saturday and Sunday.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, I believe that was.
Northborough is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Saturday, no Sundays or
Mhm.
holidays.
Mhm.
Sherburne goes until 10:30 p.m. and it doesn't say when it starts.
10:30.
There's no construction. Sundays.
Westboro says varied construction only Monday through Saturday, no Sundays or holidays.
Mhm.
That's all the ones that are right beside us that are listed. So it looks like
We don't have to duplicate other towns.
No,
Well,
we don't, but we want to be consistent because we don't want to attract. So,
No, but if we have 8 o'clock on Saturdays, so go to
We
the
will-
other towns first.
Right.
Yeah, they can go to the other towns
Right.
first.
Exactly.
That's their problem. Then they can change theirs to 8.
I
That's what
see a
mean.
9 to 5 in Winchester on Saturdays.
Winchester is a city, not a
Winchester.
town.
You
Very
would, I-
Doesn't matter.
it's actually, you would think that they would allow them in earlier. I think it's based on what people felt.
Cindy,
Yeah.
what do you think about 7:30?
I'll compromise at 7:30.
Okay. How does everybody feel about 7:30 on Saturday?
No.
No,
I had a
I'm-
neighbor have the lawn crew come in at 7:30. One Saturday they came in at 7:15. The next Saturday they came in at 7:30. And
And then
other
you have
neighbors
a
and I
reason.
visited this neighbor and made him realize that it was creating a great disturbance. And he told his lawn people not to come before 8 subsequently.
If they're not out, if they're outside of the hours that we set, then they're in violation.
That's
Yeah.
why we're saying we're recommending 8 o'clock.
No,
Yeah.
we are not. I'm recommending, I'm willing to compromise at 7:30.
You're representing a landscaper.
No, I'm also a resident, okay? I have, the condo association I live in has landscapers working on our houses. I mean, I'm trying to be reasonable. Businesses need to be able to operate in Southborough. And if the other
They do.
towns
They are.
around us have those hours, why is it not reasonable for us to go along with that sort of thing?
Tim, I see you got your hand up. Go
two
ahead.
things. There's a John in the audience now. John, if you're on the committee, if you raise your hand, I can bring you over as a panelist. So just raise your hand and I'll bring you over. Second thing, we clearly have a difference of opinion among committee members here.
Mhm.
I would like to see if we could take a vote on this and maybe move on to some other things on this and at least have a put the beginning times to at least a quick thing so we can get to other topics during this meeting.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we vote on the times that you have listed there, Monday through Friday, starting at 7, Saturday, 8 AM. No activity for contractors on legal holidays or Sunday.
Yep.
Homeowners is the same thing, only they can work on Sundays, same hours. Do I have a second on that?
Second,
Okay. So I'm gonna go through the list. Is the scribe ready?
Yep.
Lee,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Lisa,
aye.
Cindy?
Nay,
Okay, so, well,
And John's here now, so we can add him to the future. If I can.
okay. John is entering the meeting at 8:15 for the scribe. John, I assume, has he been there right along, or is this,
I just saw his name pop up, so I think we just voted on this topic. We can definitely get John's thoughts, but I think that we need to talk about end times next.
can we hear him? I just want to make sure.
Is
Yeah,
this
the
John
start
Mello?
times. Yeah, this is John Mello. The start times are fine for me.
Okay, thank you, John. All right,
Thank
so
you.
now we're gonna have a little discussion on the end times. And I think it's great that we still delineate between, the homeowner and the contractor. So Monday through Friday, a homeowner, I think, should be able to work a little later than a contractor. A contractor, I feel comfortable with 6 o'clock. A homeowner, I would think 8 o'clock. And I'm just throwing those out there just for starting points.
So Peter, can you say that again? So Monday through Friday, it would be 7 to 8
Yeah, only for a homeowner.
for a homeowner.
And a contractor would have to be done at 6.
Yeah. And then Saturday, Sunday would be 8 AM to 6 PM.
Yeah,
sounds good.
same times,
Okay.
same times. That would be my suggestion, obviously,
Times.
open
Same,
for discussion.
when you say same times, you mean the same times as the Monday through Friday, so Saturday.
Correct, yeah.
If I can go and say my piece, I don't know if you want to go through everybody or raise hands on this.
Yep, go ahead, Tim.
As a homeowner, I think 8 o'clock's too early. I would be more in the boat of 10 o'clock, and I know that might be too late, but I definitely think anytime before 9 PM is too early.
9 AM, you mean?
9 PM for ending time for a homeowner. I think that during the summer, especially if you're doing yard, you're mowing your yard, you're doing any of that sort of thing. I mean, you still have daylight till 9 o'clock at night. You have daytime hours to be able to get stuff done. I mean, I would think most people are reasonable with their neighbors. So if somebody asks you to stop, you'd stop and you do it the next day. But I think 9 PM is where I feel is the earliest reasonable time to request somebody to stop.
Okay,
That's reasonable.
Cindy, I see you got your hand up. What are your thoughts?
9, I agree, 9
Okay.
at least for homeowners.
Lee, what do you think?
I think 9 is, the latest I would go,
Okay.
beyond that, I know that my wife will often be thinking about going to sleep by then, after that. So, and plus you've got to take into account that, there are families that have kids who they'd like to get to go to sleep,
Yep.
before 9. So not, yeah, but I follow Tim's point. And I think that 9 is probably going to be the latest that would be reasonable.
Okay.
For contractors, looking through a lot of the things and thinking about people trying to build a house, Monday through Friday, I would not be totally opposed to following the lead of some of the other cities and going 7 to 7, but on Monday through Friday. I agree with.
I
8 to
worked as a
6.
carpenter for 10 years, and I can tell you, by the time the weekend came around, it was rare that I would be raring to go on a Saturday. You know, I like my 2 days off to recuperate from my 5
Yeah.
days of pounding nails.
Peter, how good are you with the 9 o'clock? Do you want the 9 or the 8? For the homeowner?
I would prefer the 8. It doesn't stay light till 9 very long in the summer.
So you're at 8?
Yeah.
Lisa, where are you at?
I'm at 8.
And John, where are you at?
I'd be a little earlier. I'd also, this is a noise bylaw. Does it really matter if it's a contractor or a homeowner?
Yes.
It's about noise.
Right.
Right.
Well, it's
Homeowner
John,
has big.
it's about accommodating residents and accommodating contractors. And well, I will agree with you, noise is noise. However, we have to accommodate homeowners that generally might have a job Monday through Friday and can only work on their houses at night, where contractors generally work during the day. So we're trying to limit the amount of noise that affects neighbors and also protect the people being able to work on their houses. So that's kind of why we split this out. This is not uncommon in the Commonwealth. There are towns that do exactly this, but you are right, noise is noise. And you know, if that's the case, then we're not going to go, and I don't think we're going to go anywhere unless we try to accommodate people.
No, I'm fine with that, Peter. The other question I had was, you know, there's external landscaping, noise, and so forth, which is more intrusive to neighbors than, you know, Tim, or even when I was working on my house at night, you know, I was working on it, I was doing some noise, but it was contained inside the house. It wouldn't permeate to the neighbors. So I'm just trying to distinguish if we're getting.
I think if nobody can hear the noise, then it's not noise. So no, you know, it's basically something that, you know, if somebody calls and they can articulate that there's noise and that they see work going on, and then it's a violation of the bylaw. If you're inside and you're quiet, you can work till midnight. If nobody hears you, who's going to care?
Right. Okay. Your original question, yeah, I prefer the 8 o'clock, especially with infants and so forth, trying to put them down around that time, especially during the summer where it's more light. Windows will be open, so I prefer the 8 o'clock than the 9.
Okay, so I forgot the count on the 8 and the 9. Is anybody interested in 8:30?
It's 3 and 3.
As a compromise?
We're at 3 and 3 on kind of the time split.
So you're going to put it on me?
No, well, it falls to you right now on this, but we didn't take a vote. We're just seeing where we fall. Another thing that I would bring up here is I've seen certain towns have different decibel restrictions at later hours. So we're jumping ahead a couple times or a couple things, but if we would agree on an objective measurement like a decibel reading, there could be reasonable restrictions, in my opinion, that we could say between the hours of this and this on our limits, it's not as loud as during the day. So there could be a way to compromise on time and enjoyment.
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
We're jumping into some decibel limits now, and we're trying to just do hours and days now.
So
Tim, what you, as I understand what you're basically saying is in addition to this, we could write up something that says, if you're, no matter what you're doing, contractor, leaf blown, whatever it is, if you meet under a certain decibel level, you can still continue to march. Is that what you're basically saying?
yes, yeah, I'm saying you pretty much, we agree on a number that would.
So that we can do that in the future. So contractors still may be able to work if they're not making noise after whatever we agree with.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily phrase it that way, but yes, if contractors are not disturbing the peace in terms of noise, then they can continue their activity because they're not breaking the noise bylaw.
So that's a discussion we're going to have obviously after this. Let's pin this down as best we can. Lee, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, you know, so, and it's just as an aside on that last point, you know, a couple of the bylaws that I looked at had tables just like what Tim was talking about.
Right.
You know, I think we need to focus on we're not setting tonight, what's going to be in the final. What we're doing is we're creating a proposal for the first public hearing to get input on it. So regardless of, if we say 9, we could hear substantial testimony at the public hearing that says that's way too late, in which case we may, our final, work product may be something different than what we put. So whatever we vote on tonight is not our last and best offer kind of thing.
Correct. So Tim, it's 3-3 right now, and I haven't voted. Is that correct?
No, we didn't really take a formal vote. We're just kind of voice our opinions. But yeah, right now the committee is tied at 3-3 on kind of where we felt our comfort level was, and you haven't voiced your position one way or the other on what you felt was better. 8 or
I think it's why don't we leave it at 9 right now, and I'm open to 8:30, but I think maybe with the public input, we'll show them this, and they, if everybody says that's too early or too late, or like you say, we can change it, but I think it's a good starting point. So I don't know how we kind of got on that, but I think we got hours kind of taken care of.
Well, we have to take a vote on that,
This-
right?
I don't know.
This was
No,
supposed to be the end hours, and we took a vote on the starting hours. So shall we take a vote on the ending
Yeah.
hours now?
Sure.
we have one more ending hour that we need to agree on, and it could be simply the same as Saturday. We don't have a homeowner hour ending time on Sunday and legal holidays. So we could just insert the 9 p.m. and keep it consistent, or it could be changed.
No. Sure, I think it should be shorter for those,
Yeah.
Yep, me too.
earlier.
How about 8
About
o'clock?
6. How
How
about 6?
It's a Sunday or it's a holiday.
In a holiday.
How about
Yeah.
6?
I would say personally, my 2 best days to get anything done are Saturdays and Sundays. So I would be opposed to a 6 p.m. homeowner stop time. I mean, we already have contractors, no allowance on Sundays and legal holidays. I would maybe consider 8 p.m. myself, but I would not, I personally would not support much earlier than 8 p.m.
Well,
All right, let's go. I guess we can go down the list. So you're at 8. Cindy, where are you at for Sunday homeowner hours ending?
I think 9.
9, okay.
Mhm.
Lee, how about you?
I'd say 8, and we have a table of restrictions as we were talking about, but
Right.
we'll get to that later. But I'll
Peter,
say
where are
8.
you at? Where are you?
6.
You're at 6. Lisa?
I'm at 6.
John?
8. We're gonna get feedback on whether that's good or not.
Right. Okay. Well, why don't we put 8 and with the same time frame, the same idea that we're gonna go over this with the public and get some advice there. I don't really have a hard line one way or another. I see both sides of it.
So I'd make a motion then that we vote on the ending hours for the time being and move to the next topic.
So, okay,
Wait,
Second.
with the 8, I'll second the motion that we vote on the 8 o'clock ending hours for Sunday homeowner. Cindy,
are we just doing the homeowner ones, or are we
Yeah.
still addressing the contractor end times?
well, the contractor can't work on Sunday at all anyways.
Right,
Yeah, but we didn't vote on the end times, and we only agreed so far on
Right.
pretty much the homeowner side. We said 6 down here, and there wasn't much objection, but I don't think we really.
right.
didn't
I would
vote.
like to talk about the contractor ones, but I'm good with what we've got for the homeowner ones.
I think we should.
Okay.
My motion was to vote on all of the end times. So if we have more discussion, we should do it before we vote on all the end times. Or I should make
Okay.
a motion.
I would like to talk about the contractor end times. I mean, Monday through, for contractors, since we're including non-construction contracting, none of the other towns are 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. I just think that that's really unreasonable. I think that,
I mean, that's an 11-hour day.
Yeah.
yeah, and they work 11, 12, 13 hours in the summer. I mean, well, actually, let me qualify. I'm not sure
usually-
about construction crews, but
Right.
I know that the landscapers once they settle into pure mowing, which is generally for June, July, August, September, they're usually that's usually more like they end by 7 or 8 o'clock.
Michael.
In the spring and in the fall, when they're doing their cleanups, I mean, they're going full tilt until, 8, 9 o'clock, because they've got a very short time frame to get all that work done. I mean, six is just, it's just too
noise
limiting. If
pollution.
we look at the other towns, 6 is very limiting.
Most seem to be 7 to 7 in this table,
Yeah.
with some 7 to 6, but most seem to be 7 to 7 on weekdays.
We don't have to do what everybody else does.
Agree.
Nope.
No, but
We're tailoring a noise bylaw for our town.
For our
right, and
residents.
our town has many, many residents who want to hire contractors to do their landscaping. And in order to get the landscaping work done, they need at least the 7 to 7.
Well, so you claim.
And couldn't they just hire more people and more
Yeah.
crews to go
Yeah.
out?
No, that is not the answer, okay? For every
It's a
crew, you've got to
solution.
have a whole nother set of equipment. You've got to have another truck. You can't have three crews working on a yard at the same time, because they just get in each other's way, and that's not efficient.
Don't believe it.
Well, I mean, most of the towns are 7 to 7. What is wrong with that?
Tim, you have your
It's
hand up.
too,
Yeah. For the sake of time, I'm a fan of the 7 to 7 on a weekday.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna get feedback on it anyway, and
Right.
I think that it, at least Monday through Friday, I'm fine with the restrictor hours on a Saturday.
Okay. I mean, keep in mind, we reduced the Saturday hours. We're eliminating Sunday and holidays. I think a 7 to 7 is a fair compromise to help out the contractors a little bit. So I'm fine with the 7 to 7. So I got, anybody else good with the 7 to 7?
No, wait, we have 3 ways in, 3 way in.
So
Lisa and Peter say no, so there's 2 against.
Lee said he was
I'm giving
for
my
it.
thumbs up that I would be in favor of 7 to 7. My landscaper is, a relatively small crew, at least he was until this year, like a crew of like 2. And, and it was not unusual for him to be here at, 7 o'clock at night.
Okay.
So,
We lost John for a second, but he's coming back, so he can weigh in as well.
So that
No,
it's
it's
4,
real
we got
John.
4 anyway, so. Why don't you change the contract hour to 7 PM? John, are you there? I see, it looks like you have your mic turned off.
Yeah, I'm here. I've been listening. So
I didn't want you to feel left out, but
No,
what is
sorry.
it on the 7 o'clock for the contractors ending time?
it's fine. We need to be balanced,
Okay.
everybody. So it's fine.
I mean, it's all about compromise. It's not going to be, not going to be what we all want exactly. It's going to have to be a blend, and it's going to have to be something that other people can live with. So, and once again, this is not an etched in stone. This is something that we could change. If a lot of people show up at the public meeting and say that these are out of whack, we'll take a look at it. So I think we made some decent progress here. let's see, we have some other things on the agenda.
Were
that
we
I
gonna
kinda
vote
wanna-
on the hours?
Yeah, we
Excuse
should,
me?
oh yeah, that's a good point of order. We should vote on the hours
All right,
and finalize. I'll
we
make
kind of did a little bit. If you, let's make it official.
Yeah,
I'm going to put a motion on the floor that we accept the hours as discussed and typed in Tim's document. Do I have a second?
second.
Tim has made a second. I'm going to go down the roster. John,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Peter,
nay,
Lisa,
Nay.
Cindy.
Aye.
Okay. So,
And yours?
oh, I'm gonna be yes as well. Aye. So at least that's what that first round draft is. That's what we're gonna have for ours. Now, new topics for discussion, public meeting. I just kind of want to go down here a little bit because there's some other things we got to kind of get done. We certainly have a lot more to do as far as drafting the bylaw. But how do we want to handle this discussion for public meetings? I'm open for some dialogue on how you want to handle these open meetings.
I think that we kind of need to have a list of things we want feedback on, or topics, you know. The survey we were going to, which is, you know, I think they're kind of one and the same. So if I'm connecting them incorrectly or at an improper time, then I'm happy to separate them. But I think they're one and the same because they get public feedback. We need to have some directive questioning that we would want to get answers to. So hours and times is something. Splitting contractor and homeowner is probably something we should get some feedback on. And then there was Lee had some other ideas from or other comments from an email as well. So my idea or my direction would be to try to find some topics that we want feedback on and
Right.
ask public people those questions and then incorporate that into a draft.
So we have going back a few meetings, we have the list. So my thought was, you know, at the public meeting, we could say, look, this is a list of topics. We could show them the spreadsheet. This is research on, you know, certain towns that we felt that were in our universe and border our area. This is what we've done so far, you know, collectively, that we still want to work on. And I just want to avoid at a meeting just completely starting from scratch with the public. I want to be able to say, look, we've actually done some stuff. We've done some homework. Please review it. This is where we're at. We're looking for a little guidance to hone A, B, and C. This is the things that we looked at. And so we're not just sitting open and just having people just, you know, we only have 4 weeks to do this. 4 weeks. It's an incredibly, and we have Christmas in the middle of it. A very, very short amount of time. Unless we want to do meetings every single night of the week, we're gonna be in trouble. So
I already have
that
meetings
would
every
be
night
my
of the
thought
week.
on how to handle the public meeting. We may not get anybody show up. I don't know, but I want to be able to, you know, when somebody comes up with a concern, I want them to say, I want to be able to say, we thought of that. You know, go ahead, Peter.
I think we should just present them with what we've discussed, you know, and come up with so far. If we
Yep,
show
that's-
them the
that's just
town
what I just said.
spreadsheet,
Yep.
if we show them the town spreadsheet,
Yeah.
that's just going to generate confusion, and
Oh,
you know, you'll have an endless discussion over this town does this town did that, this town, you know.
Well, it shows that we did some research. It shows that we just didn't do this in a vacuum. You know, I mean, it's fine. Lee,
I
go
might
ahead.
give
see
them a
your
list of
hand
the
up.
towns.
Oh,
I wouldn't give them all the details of the bylaws for the various towns. That's
Well-
too much. It's information overload for the public hearing.
It's public record anyway. We've shared it. It's all
Okay,
part of
so-
our, it's
Yeah,
all
that-
public
that's
record,
what
so.
That's what I was going to say. We have to
Right.
post this document, as one of the documents that was tied to this meeting anyway.
It's gonna be in our minutes, so.
Exactly. So this document will be available for people. My thought on what to do with the public hearing is that, we take, the document that we just created on ours, and we make that, for example, the first agenda item for discussion. Then we could take some of the other things on the scenarios, for example, that I put in the email the other day, and make those agenda items for hearing input. So that way, as Peter is chair of the committee, you would say, the floor is now open for discussion on, feelings on this item. Then
Okay.
what we do is that we hold a meeting as soon as practical after that public hearing, and we decide what things we want to try to do in the survey based upon what kind of feedback we got from the public hearing. Because there may be, for example, things that we heard no testimony on, in which case we may want to put the survey so we get some input on that. There may be other things that we got a big divergence of opinion on. That would definitely be something then that we might want to survey more. So like if we're talking about the difference between ending at 6, 7, 8, or 9, and we heard everything all over the map, we would probably want a survey to see if there was any better central tendency than just the people who showed up. So those are my 2 cents, that we create an agenda using those kinds of things. And I guess we have to start on that tonight because we only have one other meeting before we, next week, before we have to post that agenda, right?
Yes, and part of my homework was to research how to do the survey. So I did reach out to the assistant town coordinator and the staff. That is something that they can handle. We would have to just come up with a list of questions. We could leave them either open-ended or we could have multiple choice. And pretty much, that's it. I think if we do it, I hate to say it, we're gonna have to probably do it tonight and get this going, because that's gonna take time for them to design it, and then we're gonna have to look at the results. And I would love to do it. I'm worried about the time constraints, and we have a lot of work to do. I'm just a little concerned about, we got 4 weeks, I don't, and we just have hours is all we've really kind of agreed on. There's a lot, I mean, we could spend 3 nights just on decibels and distances and metering. Like, we have a lot to do. And I think I think the survey is a wonderful idea. I'd love to do it. I just don't know that we're gonna have time. So, I mean, that's open, that idea is open for the discussion. Certainly anybody that wants to
One quick
participate can
question.
show up at the meeting.
What happens if we are unable to come up with a proposal in time for the spring meeting?
And it doesn't make the warrant.
Yeah, it doesn't, it
And then-
wouldn't make the warrant, and I guess at best, if the selectmen wanted to, I guess maybe they could put it to a special. But that, I don't know that they want to do that.
Not just for that. But if they had another meeting next fall too, it would only fall for 6 months.
Right, so my thought was, and I think it was Peter that said it earlier, much earlier in this whole process. Maybe we want to do something simple just to get something on the books that
Yeah,
can be
10
tailored
dB over
later.
ambient.
What was that, sir?
10 dB over ambient. It's already state law. 10 decibels over ambient is a violation.
Yeah, but not anything that anybody in Southborough is going to enforce.
Why not?
Why?
They won't enforce it.
It's not a crime.
Because
They only enforce general laws and bylaws.
It's already a law in Massachusetts, 10 decibels over ambient.
Not criminally.
So make it this violating a
about
noise
$100
bylaw would be a
fine,
criminal
probably.
violation anyway. It would be civil, right?
The police only can only enforce bylaws and mass general laws that are criminal. They can't enforce like any of those laws that you're talking about.
No, the state law. Okay, so the idea to simplify this bylaw was instead of getting into decibel thresholds and when they're applicable and when they're not by hours, you just say, if it's 10 dB over ambient, it's in violation of the Southborough noise bylaw.
And then they have to uphold it because it's a bylaw.
Right. That's enforceable then, right? If it passes muster at town meeting. So if you're in a noisy environment and it's 10 decibels over the already noisy level, it's in violation. If you're in a quiet environment and it's 10 decibels over, it's in violation. It only matters if somebody picks up the phone and makes a call to law enforcement.
Complaint.
If people tolerate it, then, if a tree falls in the woods and there's nobody there, it doesn't make any noise, right? So that's what you were alluding to that I suggested earlier, right? Just take a simple approach and not have,
Well,
70 dB or 80.
I didn't know exactly what you meant by that. That's very interesting what you just said. I was more looking at something simple like just, dealing with hours and dealing with, the two main complaints is the land is basically construction is the main thing. The noise from construction and landscapers.
Right.
If we could just maybe put a handle on that, the two main complaints that most people have, if we could just focus on that, at least we're making some headway.
And the other part
to be
is
honest with you, I'm totally
nuisance
unfamiliar
noise.
with what you just said. That whole ambient, I don't know what you're even talking about.
You don't know what I'm talking.
Go ahead, John, you have your hand up.
So, Peter, I understand what you're saying, that if it's above that level and a neighbor doesn't complain, nobody's going to be hurt. But as a citizen and somebody who believes in the Constitution, the law, and so forth, that threshold you just described, if I'm running my lawnmower, I'm violating that. Every construction crew is out there is violating that 10 decibel. It doesn't make sense. So
It's
Peter,
hurting our hearing.
I know. So I go back, Peter, go back to ignore the survey for now. The survey will come out as soon as we, deal with each of the categories which you're trying to get us through. So you've done the hours and so forth. Let's pick another hard topic, and maybe it's the decibels, and then something else. So as long as we chug through this, then the survey will come out naturally out of it.
So is your idea to not have the online survey?
No, I think I want to do it, but I'm not worried about the survey. I'm worried about us agreeing on the categories that we want to present.
Okay. All right, Cindy, I see you have your hand up.
Well, yeah, I have a question on what Peter was talking about, because what you're describing, I'm envisioning, okay, so here I am in my little house and nobody's running any lawn mowers and it's very quiet, and the landscaping crew shows up or the garbage truck shows up or whatever, and it's obviously over 10, it's louder than 10 decibels over what's just been going on. Is that what you mean?
That's the existing state law now.
Okay.
Two state laws.
I mean, that
So, Pete,
makes
in
no
reality, how does
sense at
that
all.
work?
So when you mow your lawn on your riding lawnmower, you're going to be in violation.
Probably.
Well, then that's ridiculous.
But that is also at a distance away from the sound too. And actually, Deb Demuria, I don't know her, but I did see the email from her. There's actually a template for the Board of Health. And that's actually part of the template that they use for noise bylaws. In Matt, it's what their suggestion is. And it's, and that's written in there. It's around.
Many of the town
noise
bylaws use that template.
It's noise thresholds.
Is chapter
So-
310 Code of Massachusetts Regulations, Section 7, air pollution control regulations? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, that was that was sent out to the committee by a citizen. But
It's model
not-
noise regulation. It's called model
Right.
noise regulation, and
And
it's by,
Framingham did use a lot of this template.
and you can
So-
obviously adjust it, but it does talk within that about the noise, the measurement of noise levels, and it outlines noise thresholds, and it talks about daytime hours, recorded at a distance of 50 feet from the source. There's a table, and noise exceeds or is likely to exceed the normal background noise levels by more than 10 dBA.
So I did read through that, and I didn't memorize what Lisa and Peter brought to town meeting. However, when I read what that was proposed, it seemed to be much more complicated and much more restrictive than what you guys had proposed. And my thought was, if yours didn't fly, then there's no way that one's gonna fly.
Exactly.
So that was my thought on it. And like I said before, I didn't memorize what you guys presented, a more general. And I know when we kind of surveyed the group earlier, we thought that that was what the problem was with that effort. It was too restrictive and too complicated. So
Yep.
I don't know if anything's changed since then, but I
That
don't
may
know
be
how
in-
you would measure 50 feet from a source. You're gonna have to go on private property, which you can't do. And I don't know how you're gonna instruct
Police
somebody
can't
to shut something off so you can take a measurement. Like,
No.
you can't compel anybody to do anything in a criminal matter at all.
These aren't criminal. This is civil. This is civil, not criminal.
Well,
you know-
you can't do it in civil either, with the
Many-
police.
many of
police
the
can't tell
noise
people what to
bylaws-
do.
Many of the documents, the existing noise bylaws say either 50 feet from the source or at the property line. So if you can't go on somebody's property, you stand, in fact, one of them that I reviewed for the spreadsheet says, at the property line of the complainant, whoever called it in, they can take the noise measurement there. And many of these noise bylaws have decibel thresholds, daytime hours and evening hours. They're usually slight, like 10 dB or more lower at night, say, than they are during the daytime hours. That seems to be common across many of these. Now, that's what people gave their perception as overly complicated, because it listed specific decibel levels. They look at days and hours, and then they've got decibel levels, and then their eyes
Well,
start going.
I think it's something that people aren't familiar with. Like, they don't know what that is. Like, unless you're in the industry, like, they don't know what it is. 10 dB, 8 dB, 50. I don't know what that is. I'd have to have a meter and run around and see, okay, what's a lawnmower? What's this? And how far? And I don't know that people are comfortable doing that. I mean, I wasn't at that town meeting. I wasn't. So certainly the engineers on the team would, oh yeah, that's, and they should, because that's what they do. But I think the average homeowner is going to be somewhat confused with decibels. And Tim, you have a hand up.
Cindy had hers up first, but Cindy, if you don't mind, real
Oh.
quick, a point about decibels that is related to what we just said. Would you mind if I say it real quick?
Go ahead, go ahead.
So, in terms of decibels, there's a general rule of thumb for how loud something is, because I don't know if everybody knows like what distance away is and how all that sort of works. If you would take a measurement at 10 feet and then you double it to 20 feet, you would perceive that sound to be twice, it would be like half as loud at 20 feet versus 10 feet if the level dropped, general rule of thumb, about 6 dB. Some books will say 10 depending on the frequencies. So if you have about a 6 to 10 dB drop, when you double that distance, you would perceive it to be half as loud. That being said, there's a lot of different ways to take a measurement for the decibel meter to work. dBA and dBc are the two most common ones. dBA is measuring sounds as a human would hear it, better at quieter levels. dBc is better if you take it at like a rock concert, louder levels. So depending on what measurement you use, you will get different results on different things. Not to dive deep into that, but a general rule of thumb, the thing to take away from this, if you double the distance, the decibel level will drop between 6 to 10 dB. Rule of thumb, say 6 to be on the safe side. So just to kind of give the group some level of thought process when we talk about decibels and measurements and stuff.
Tim, what kind of decibel level am I getting out of my Apple Watch?
More than likely dBA. I'm pretty sure it's dBA. But
Most of these bylaws use dBA.
yeah, Cindy had her hand up, so I didn't want to take away from that. But I did
Go
want
ahead,
to put
Cindy.
it into context.
Okay, so I'm looking at this Massachusetts noise regulation, right? And the very first part, the very first paragraph is basically saying that you can't just let stuff run to make noise. So, okay, yeah, everybody would probably agree to that. The second one talks about it should pertain to, but shall not be limited to, prolonged unattended sounding of burglar alarms, construction and demolition equipment, which characteristically emits sound, blah, 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 but may be fitted and accommodated with equipment such as enclosures. But it's like, okay, prolonged and unattended. Prolonged isn't defined. What's prolonged and unattended? So if somebody's operating a lawnmower, ride-on lawnmower or whatever, then it's not unattended, so it doesn't pertain to that. I don't understand this regulation that's not really a regulation. It's like, you know, it goes on to say about domestic equipment such as lawnmowers and power saws between the hours of 7 and 9. Well, it doesn't talk about who's operating it, is the homeowner or the commercial person or whatever. A lawnmower is a lawnmower according to them. So this mass noise regulation seems to have like huge holes in it to me. And I would imagine that that's why towns have gone to their own bylaws to try to quantify things a little bit better. So I guess I'm just saying that the 10 decibels over ambient is, people don't know what it means. It doesn't seem to be very meaningful according to their own document. I would like to see something that's more identifiable by people.
Okay, Lisa has her hand up.
So I think maybe we need to approach it at a different angle, that, you know, the reason why we're using that decibel level is because we need to protect our hearing. We know that there are health issues that come with loss of hearing. And we know that decibels do that to us. And, you know, people need to know that if you're running something that's around 85 decibels, you should have hearing protection on, because once you lose your hearing and those, it's the cochlear hairs that are destroyed, they don't come back and you just lose your hearing. So it's understanding what's too loud, and it's also for what length of time too. So, you know, there's guidelines out there around health. And so when you've got a time frame to get your work done, but we also have to realize that if that noise is, over that, I think it's 75 is what they use as a guideline for a lot of these, for the guidelines. If I know that those enormous leaf blowers that they bring out could be closer to 100 decibels. So how is that affecting everyone's health? So maybe it's a little bit of education around this. And that's the reason why having a noise bylaw is important to the health of our residents and even to the health of those contractors, because I certainly see them without hearing protection on, and they're doing that for 11 to 12 hours a day. That's just crazy to me. All right,
Well,
I'm done.
I don't think anybody would argue that noise can hurt a person and that too much is a bad thing. I mean, I drove around for 12 years with a canine barking at every car that went by in my cruiser, and it was about 3 inches from my head. And I can tell you that that gave me many headaches, and I'm sure I don't hear as well now as I used to. But so I definitely can understand. Every time I picked up the microphone, that dog would just bark, 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 and there was no hiding it. So, I mean, it's very irritating and it does hurt, and I get it.
You needed a new
Back
partner.
to the focus of the committee is we have to pass a bylaw that's once again, is got to be simple and not as restrictive as what was already presented. And those are great points, and that's a wonderful thing, and I agree with you. However, we have 3 weeks to do something that we got to get something going. And I'm not sure that this American national standard is going to fly for the police to be enforcing it. It may be something that the Board of Health could do. They set all kinds of regulations that aren't criminal. They have probably more authority in certain areas than the police. However, that's just kind of my thought on it.
Well, how is it that other towns have the police enforcing these bylaws and there's decibel levels involved? I don't understand that. It would seem that they could be tasked with coming out and doing those measurements, because the Board of Health is not going to come out at 5:30 in the morning when someone shouldn't be on site doing stuff and making noise.
You're right. The Board of Health generally sets up the policies. So they would look at things that may happen in the future. Like, we're not going to allow such and such because they're not doing it at the time of the moment. They're designing policies and restrictions based on laws like that. No, they're not going to come. Of course, they're not going to come out at 2 a.m. and give somebody a ticket for making noise. Of course not. But like doctors have laws that they abide by. There are noise bylaws that work with decibels and decibel meters. I've yet to find I've reached all the police officers that I know. I've yet to find one that's ever used a meter in that scenario. I just haven't found one. I know some of them are out there, some of the towns that are out there, but I don't know that anybody has ever brought a meter to an incident and held it and used that.
Peter?
Yeah.
Sorry, I know you're trying to move the meeting along. The question I have for the committee is, I think Lee and I made a comment about the balance between quantitative and qualitative. I am worried that if we get too much into the measurement of decibels, we're going to go to a path we can't get out of. Now, as an engineer, believe me, I've measured my equipment. That's part of my DNA of measuring things. But I think as a committee member, I'd like to see, is there agreement that we might just ignore actually measuring the decibels, because whatever measurement we put down, I guarantee you, I have seen it violated in the last couple of weeks just in my neighborhood.
So what does that mean that it's been violated?
This actually yesterday morning, I saw a crew trying to clean a neighbor's yard, and I think they brought 3 crews with, I think it was 4 backpacks, 2 blowers that they pulled, 2 lawnmowers, and they did the whole yard in about an hour. And I think there was a lot of noise and for that. Last week I saw 2 crews taking down a huge tree. They had 2 pickup winches, choppers. I mean, I know that violated any noise decibel that we would set. So I'm just trying to get feedback from the committee from a
So
qualitative.
does that make it okay? Does that make it okay?
Well, what are you going to tell those
But it's
homeowners?
reality.
It's reality. They needed to cut down the tree before it fell on their house.
Yeah, your health is reality. It's not just hearing loss. It's
No,
mental health. It's
I was-
mental and physical health. It impacts your well-being,
So
not just your hearing.
John, your point, how would that situation, how would that go in terms of success, do you think? Like, how do you, like, what happens there? You say you call the cops, the police show up, like, what happens in that situation, and how can something be handled in those 2 situations you just brought
Well,
up?
I know it's going to happen if I'm a police officer and I have a meter coming. I would basically lower the threshold of the equipment I'm running. All of a sudden, it's running at less power. It's below the level. Police officer goes away, and then after he goes away, I turn it back up to full bore and clean and finish my job. Let's just be honest and pragmatic of what's happening here. People have these jobs. None of us are out there in the cold cleaning leaves. I mean, I feel bad for, not bad. I mean, I feel like, these are honest, hardworking people doing jobs that we don't like doing. And the last thing I want them to worry is about noise. Now, Lisa, you did mention, I did see a lot of crew members without hearing protection, which is obscene. It's but I can't do anything about. That's beyond our charter here.
So, sorry, I just wanted to follow up on that. So what would be the path forward in the situations you outlined? The trees getting cut down, the chippers, and then the other situation with the lawn crew, without having a meter or some way to say that they're in violation. So say that number doesn't exist. What is?
You just say you can't do it at certain times and certain days.
You got to
It
do it
is
between
allowed.
7
You
to
just
7
restrict
p.m.
when it can happen.
Right.
Okay.
That's the quantitative nature that I like, is the time constraints. Let's make our contractors, let's make ourselves be peaceful for our neighbors at certain times. But during those times, we're not going to solve everything by the decibel, because, and believe me, I'm an engineer. I love measuring stuff. I don't see how we do it pragmatically and get our citizens to even understand what it means.
Right.
The power level, quadruples if you go a certain distance away. I mean, nobody will understand that. And Peter and Lisa, the reason I voted against your thing last year had nothing to do with what you're trying to do. I just measured my equipment and it violated the statute that you put forward. So I'm just saying that if I'm in favor of just eliminating the decibel criteria, because that will eliminate a lot of questions from everybody. I don't know if that's palatable. That might be a question for the survey, whether that would be something people would want. But I'm in favor of just eliminating the decibel measurements at this stage to keep everything simple.
Yeah. It's definitely something we should research from the public. But I agree, and I said early on, it would be wonderful. It'd save a lot of problems if you could just bring this meter out and stick it out and boot. That would be, in a perfect world, I love it. I just don't think in reality that it's going to be confusing to the voters at town meeting, confusing to the police officers. People aren't going to know people that look at bylaws every day, the amount of hours that you guys, some of the authors that put, if it's in, yeah, they're going to know all about this stuff because they've researched it and they've put in hours and hours and hours, and that's their thing. the average person that goes to town meeting, they don't look at it until they open up that town meeting warrant article and they read it and they go, how does this affect me? And they're like, and they look at each other. I saw it. So I would agree with John at that, but I think we talked a little bit about this earlier. But I'm sure we'll talk about it again, but certainly we can bring that up if you want to put it on the survey and you want to put it as a topic for discussion at the open forums that we have coming up. That's probably, I think, a good idea. And I can see it's already on the list here.
I'm just for the record, I'm trying to consolidate the list here. So if we want to, these were the things we were trying to talk about and get feedback on. I'm trying just to corral our thoughts into something we can look back to. So if something's not right or if something should get added, please let me know and I'll just adjust.
So for the noise levels, should we,
Thanks.
can you say, oh, like, should they be measured in decibels? Like there needs,
Mm.
What are you gonna measure it in?
Well, that's the point of the question. I mean, if you
Yeah.
measure sound, there's one known quantity of how you measure sound. It's either dBA, it's a decibel measurement with some kind of quantifier, whether it's an A or C scale as standard, but there's other scales too. So
If you look at the town bylaws, they use dBA.
yeah, so the question that I would put, the way that I phrase this, the reason I phrase it this way, should decibel limits exist or should it be hour only limitations? That's the real question. It's not should,
Right.
it's not like if we measure it, what is the measurement? It's should a decibel measurement exist? And maybe it should say, should decibel measurements?
Sound level, decibel sound measurements.
Didn't someone last week make the point that if it's decibels, the police get called, the police shows up, the noise shuts off, there's nothing to measure, the police go away, and the work starts up again. I think someone made that point last week. Or the
yeah,
week before.
I said that myself about, it says police on the side, the problem solved. But I mean, I think a lot of these engineering type things are, they're wonderful. They make everybody feel good putting them in. And I think in reality, it just doesn't happen. That's my thought. I tried to call Ashland. I think Ashland I saw in there had a decibel one. And I tried to, like, all the people that I know over there, I used to go over there with the King all the time. And I couldn't get anybody to say that they've ever used it.
Yeah, so I think I have the next hand here. So,
Yep, go ahead.
I'm basically a quantitative person. I mean, I love physics. I love math. I've got a watch that can measure decibels, although I have no idea how well it's calibrated.
Mhm.
But you could always save a screenshot of from the time that from your watch showing how many decibels was being generated. But all seriousness, I think that this is probably the right question to ask at the public forum. I think that the things we need to ask at the public forum are questions like this. And then if we want to try to do something along the lines that we're trying to get something done in time, and if the question that was asked half an hour ago or so is, can there be something that we can do that's simple? To me, I think the way to do simple as opposed to saying 10 decibels over ambient, because that has all the problems we've been talking about for the last half hour, maybe would be better to, simple would be limiting the scope of what we're trying to accomplish on the first go round. So, we've talked about construction noise, we've talked about landscaping noise, which are two of the big ones. But you also have the whole category that the other towns look at that they've classified as nuisance noise. Some of which the nuisance noise is episodic, like a dog barking. Yeah, bar docking. A dog barking, or things like that. You have noise from loud parties that are not weddings or whatever. So I think the question that we want to ask is, how big a scope do we want? And so we can ask the questions to the public. Do they want their bylaw to include animals? Do they want it to include parties? Do they want it to include loud trucks and off-road vehicles, which are things that I found in some of these other bylaws? Or would they be satisfied if we just limited it to, the primary things which we discussed tonight? Because I think we could get something like that in time for, the February deadline. But I think if we're going to try to start to add all the nuisance categories and other kinds of things, I think we're going to get bogged down. That's my 2 cents.
Excellent. I think I agree with you as well, Lee. Anybody else have their hand up?
What, how would you phrase that question? Because I took a stab at what should be explicitly listed in the bylaw is the question, but I don't know if that's the right thing to ask.
Right.
Because I kind of want to say, like, what should it be listed in the bylaw? Like, should animals not be called out? So, I mean, I kind of almost want to put that question.
So one way is for us to first define for the public what we mean by nuisance noise. And there's multiple definitions that I've seen, including in that bylaw, that model bylaw. And then we could ask, whether or not, they wanted us to include nuisance noises. If we're getting, and this may be something that we end up doing, getting more detail in the survey. In the survey, we could potentially ask, what kinds of nuisance noise. Like I have a particularly obnoxious rooster that lives at the kennel that's nearby me.
Okay.
It doesn't know about 7 a.m.
I do have the list of the infamous list that we started, I think early on. It might have even been the first meeting. I'm gonna just fly through it and see if you think that these are things that we should get some research on. Let's see, definition of activities, we pretty much have that. Includes limits of hours of days, we have that one. Cert per days, we have that. All right, animals, roosters, dogs, kennels, livestock. Is that something we want to get some feedback on?
I have a conflict of interest since I live near the kennel, but I'd love to get input on that.
I think that's fair. It's fair.
Okay, so I took a stab at this. So again, should I list down specific items or animals now?
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a conversation starter.
Right,
We can find out if people are interested, right?
Right, exactly. And it shows that we at least, thought about almost everything. Recreational vehicles is one of them. We did list vehicle operation, loud exhaust, engine brakes, and so forth. I think that that's covered under other laws. Anything loud and excessive noise from a motor vehicle, that's a chapter 90. That's something that the police officer can write a citation for. So I think that's probably handled in another way. I don't know that we need to have that in the bylaw, but that's my thought. If I'm open for other thoughts, go ahead, Tim.
One comment to that. I think that already a lot of these things already exist. If we just make reference to it within the bylaw, I saw other states or other towns do that. I think that's the way we handle it, is we just say, I forget the wording, but inclusive of that bylaw that already exists. I even saw some towns use that bylaw as a way to get the definitions already covered and keep the bylaw very short, which I found an interesting tactic. So I think it's appropriate to include it, but I think we'd include it in that manner so we don't have to specifically call it out right now.
So if my neighbor takes his dirt bike up and down our road and I call that in, there should already be something in place that the police can give him a citation of some sort?
Well, there's two things that we're talking about here. You're talking about recreational motor vehicles.
But he's driving it on the road.
Right. You can't drive that on the road, period. It's a chapter 90B violation. It's illegal. That has nothing to do with noise, but that's illegal. As far as noise goes, that's why we had some of these things going on here. Like the thing that people take their mufflers off, you know, they all these, you know, a lot of the little cars, they have the loud exhaust. That's illegal under defective equipment. And also, if somebody's spinning their tires and making loud noise, that's loud and excessive noise from a motor vehicle. There's a chapter and section on that, and so that you can get a ticket for it.
Okay.
Just like a speeding ticket, it's the same uniform citation that you get. So I think those are already addressed, you know, through state law. So I don't know that we have to reinvent that.
So do we need recreational vehicles? Is that part of that other piece,
Well,
or is that considered a nuisance that we want to include here?
recreational motor vehicle, the noise from that is not covered, but the scenario she brought up was, you know, driving on a public way. That's you can't have.
Okay, so we do
Well,
need,
no, it's usually pretty loud and I would call about that more than anything else.
so I do need to keep it on this list we're building out.
Right.
Okay, got it.
Also, leaf blowers. Do we want to make a specific, I guess, specific notation in the law about leaf blowers? That's on the list here.
Might say no, you're going to piss off a lot of people, even though they're very dangerous.
Well,
from a noi-
yeah, but this is the survey. This isn't what we're doing. This is the survey.
I
And
think put it in there. I think we should get
Yeah.
comments.
right.
Gas powered leaf blowers,
Yeah, because there's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff out there that has lower decibels now.
right?
Yeah.
And I understand that, but
Contractors
if
should switch
if
them out.
if the people who complete the survey attend the meeting, I have a very positive to that. I believe that a lot of people will reject this bylaw, including me.
This is a survey.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but a survey's, you need to be careful when you ask a question and somebody tells you what they want. You can't completely ignore it. You just got to be careful of the questions you ask, so that you're trying to get good input.
The
Right, so
responders
should
of the survey
blowers
are not
have
the
their-
entire town. They're a
No,
subset.
but
of it.
I think back to John's point, we have to play back the last town meeting and also deal with, you know, the things that are too restrictive. I think like eliminating leaf blowers, that's clearly not going to fly right now.
Although
Maybe
it
10
did in
years from now
Lexington.
when they're all electric and they're quiet, that might go. But I don't think the town is ready for that, or they would have. That was probably a main concern with the last presentation. So
Well,
I think John does have a good point. Like, what if you know, we get 50 people that say that? Now we're kind of stuck with that, and then we're gonna have to present something that is not gonna fly.
there was
Yeah.
no
No,
wording
that's
about
50 out
leaf
of
blowers
10,000.
in the bylaw that was presented at the town meeting.
That's
There was
correct.
no mention of leaf blowers in that.
Right.
Okay.
It's just the decibel levels.
No, well, let
But
me,
you'd have to address the leaf blowers probably by decibel levels.
let
Chief
me,
Paula specifically asked that leaf blowers be added, but I couldn't modify the document.
let
Did
me
he
add a-
ask, Peter, why did he ask that? Did he ask that because there were a lot of complaints about them?
I don't know. He just said,
Okay,
can you put leaf blowers in?
all right.
guys, what I see us adding these nuisance additions is because they could actually be beyond the times restrictions that we put in place. So with dogs, roosters, they don't know the time. So that's why I'm looking for feedback, is if the time constraints is compatible or incompatible with other feedback. The leaf blowers, they should just be part of the noise hourly constraints. So I would just ignore some of those. That's where I'm coming from.
These items here would be outside of the hours.
Right.
You could do leaf blower restrictions seasonal.
Oh, yeah.
Do you need
And
to
it-
use a leaf blower all summer long? There are no leaves to be blowing then.
I've
It's a
seen,
leaf blower.
I've
And
seen
in fact,
people,
that's what the Lexington, town of Lexington bylaw that they just passed does, is aside from eliminating all gas-powered leaf blowers by 2025, prior to that, though, They limited the hours, and they limited the decibels produced at 50 feet from the property line to 78 dBA. It was controversial enough that it actually made the 11 o'clock news.
Yeah, I did see that as well, and I don't know what kind of a program they had behind, getting that going, an education piece. So maybe they did 50 presentations throughout the town and everybody was comfortable. Like I don't know that we have that advantage. We don't have that advantage. We just have. So I think that it's a little different. I did see that and I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. But maybe they had a widespread campaign to do that, and everybody was comfortable with it. We don't have that luxury at this point. Tim, your hand is up.
Yeah. For the sake of just moving forward to get more things on this thing for the meeting, because it is 9:30 at night and I didn't eat dinner yet. So I'm sorry, guys. The nuisance noise explanation. I cannot say that 3 times. Animals, John's point a second ago is very, very valid for me. Things that don't know the time. So we have recreational vehicles in here under nuisance noise. Is that the right spot that it should be? Or are there more things in the animals or, negligent of time principle that we should add?
How about instead of nuisance, we just have, what I want to kind of say is subjects of noise. What kind of noises do we want to focus on?
Sources of noise.
Yeah, subjects of noise. Yeah, so yeah, that's fine.
I mean, if you go back and look at my list, I had trash removal noise early in the morning,
Right.
loud parties without a permit.
I have the list. I wasn't done.
Okay.
Let's see.
Yelling,
Contract
shouting, hooting.
Yeah.
Living at Motel 6, apparently. Or
Do we
whatever
want to
the
set a
motel.
limit on how
Yeah,
late we're going to run?
Red roof, yeah.
Do we want to agree on a limit as to how late we're going to run this meeting tonight?
I figure if we just go through the list.
We're up to almost 9:30 now.
Yep. Let's go through the list and open a public comment, and then I'll do the adjournment. That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
So
Sounds good.
I only have 1, 2. It'll take a couple minutes to go through the list. And this is a list of all you folks, so I don't want to shortchange anybody. Alarms, vehicle alarms, like I guess building burglar alarms. I guess that's what the person meant.
Yeah.
Generators was on the list. Emergency generators or generators.
Well, wouldn't that be considered an exemption because it's emergency?
If-
Yeah, I would think
Well,
so.
not right now. We don't have anything. We'd have to work that all out, but we're trying to get some input on, do we want to entertain that? So we would,
You're going to tell people if there's a power failure, they can't run their generator.
I think
guess it
an
would be an
exemption list
exception.
would be good to go through too, so people understand what is considered an emergency and what's the situation.
So yeah, we're going to have it down as an exemption. So at least when people come into the meeting, they say, oh, they thought about that. And then they have it down as an exemption. I can run it. So it's yelling, shouting, booing, whistling. I don't know that that's, I guess that could be kind of disorderly conduct or keep her a disorderly house if it was coming from a house.
That was from Chief Policy's list, so that's.
Yeah.
So what would that be, like noise in public spaces?
The public streets, in public place, any place in which the
Or,
public has the right of access. Do you
Or
want me to
it's-
read it?
Well, what was that?
I can read it. I have his policy, Chief Paulus's bylaw here, the draft. Do you want me to read it?
Sure.
Okay, so yelling, shouting, hooting, making of any other loud noises on the public streets, in a public place, or in any place to which the public has right of access. And it's between the hours of 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. or making of any such noise, including the playing of a radio, phonograph, television, amplified music instruments, loudspeakers, tape recorders, at any time or place so as to annoy or disturb the reasonable quiet, comfort, or repose of identified persons in or on a public way, public place, or ways to which the public has the right of access, or any dwelling, hotel, hospital, or any other type of residence, or in any office or building, or any persons in vicinity is prohibited. Wow, that was long.
It was long.
That's what you call a run-on
What
sentence.
that
Yeah.
really comes to, though, is an hours thing. It's,
Right.
you know, if we have something in there about loud noises, loud noises in public places aren't allowed between such and such an hour and such and
Yeah.
such. Seems
Well-
like that would cover a lot of things.
So you're saying
What is
quiet
loud?
hours.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
it's 11 to 7.
What is loud? We can't measure it.
Right.
disturbances?
It's one of those things, you'll see it when you know, you'll,
Yeah.
If it wakes me
you'll know
up,
it when
it's
you hear
loud.
it.
So from what we need to answer right now, noise in
We've already
public,
said we can't measure it.
noise in public place, yelling, shouting, etc. Should that be included? That's the question that we want to ask the
Mhm.
public, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Coming up.
Did you want to put radios, stereos, stuff like that, musical instruments,
I'll put musical instruments.
or music?
Just put,
Those
just
are
put
spelled
music.
out.
Just
Yeah,
put
just
music.
put music. That'll
Yeah.
cover
Yeah.
radios, have boom
Yeah.
boxes, everything.
Yeah,
Those
music.
are all, those are spelled out in various town bylaws.
Yep.
They're all listed.
I think that's a fair representation of what we should be looking at and getting feedback from at the public meeting.
Cindy has her hand up.
Nope, sorry, I didn't see that. Go
Just-
ahead,
just-
Cindy.
Just one thing, under measurement, is it a device? Is it personal discretion? Can we say enforcement discretion or officer's discretion? Because personal discretion would be like, okay, well, I don't think it's noisy. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. That's why we have 7 people on the committee. I've gone through the list as far as I know. I don't know if I left anything out. Some of the stuff we already talked about, distances and, should we, where is the, Tim, if you could scroll up a little bit, I want to see when you talk about measurements, oh yeah, you have measurement location you have, okay.
Yeah, I don't have anything specific for a
So
question.
distances, maybe,
I mean, I really don't know if that's,
property lines, line, I don't know what we should,
Can't we
There's-
just leave it at measurement location and
Okay.
see if there's any feedback on that?
well,
Yep.
Yeah.
I would say yes and no from a technical side. Depends on what, it depends on what they say about this upper
right,
piece. If it's a device, the distance setback, property line sort of thing, there's something there. If it's a officer's discretion, I mean, like they stand someplace and they kind of can use their own judgment for an assessment. So it's hard to list anything here specifically
right.
at this
It was
point.
just on the list, that's why I figured I'd accommodate whoever put it on there. That looks like a pretty good start.
So some of these are questions, some of these aren't formally in questions. I think before we move away from what we have here, we should read through kind of like what I put, and obviously this can be wordsmith more,
Mhm.
but I just want to make sure we have the right thing that we want to ask, that I captured it correctly. So I have days and hours. Are the above hours and days of the week correct? Should they be adjusted? I feel like that's what we wanted to ask. Noise levels, should decibel sound level measurements exist, or should it be hour only limitations? Is that the right question that we're trying to get across? John, you had worded this pretty well earlier. Do you have any changes that you think would fit better with how you saw that the non-time of day or the time of day?
No, I think we're fine.
Okay. Anybody else?
Nope, that's good.
Measurement.
Now, while we're going through this, Tim, this looks like a pretty good outline for a survey.
Mhm.
Could we maybe think about making this a survey as well? Like while we're going through the list, like tailor it to the survey?
I mean, that's kind of what I was hoping we could just.
I mean, that was my original proposal, is we do this as the public comment, and then we use that to help, you know, sort of like finalize what we want in the survey.
Okay. Okay.
Are we, do we think, to that point, let's all agree on this so we can make sure we write the list down that I'm going through now properly for that. If we do the public forum first, get some more input, modify our list and formulate into better questions and publish it as a survey, do we feel confident as a committee that that's the right move to get the best kind of feedback we can get?
Well, when's the public meeting?
2 weeks.
15th.
2 weeks.
15th.
That's not going to be enough time. So if we have the public meeting and then we say we stay after the public meeting and we come up with the survey, we have to send out the survey and get the results. And then there's Christmas.
Right, we won't have these results before like
We won't have
the
able
7th
time, I
of
don't think.
January.
I think if we
Why
do
are
a
we
survey,
doing-
we're gonna do it like, my thought would be, let's make this a survey. We'll pick 2 people to, you know, make it, and we'll submit it to the town and put it out. That would be kind of my thought. I know it's getting late, but.
So wait, so when you say put it out, are we looking to try to get feedback within the next 2 weeks for the public forum date? So we want people to answer this survey.
I think the survey can be independent of the public forum, yeah.
We want, the way that you're saying this is you want feedback from the survey results for the public forum to formulate more questions, or the two are kind of just
No.
complementing each other?
The two are kind of be the same. So people have the option of filling out the survey, and if they don't feel it's detailed enough, or they could also, if they want to come to the meeting, they can come to the meeting. They can go both ways to give us their input.
Why are we trying to do both?
Because
The public hearing is for input from the public. Why are we duplicating that effort with a survey as well and making more work for ourselves when we already don't have enough time?
Because
Because-
most people don't go to these meetings. We want
Right.
maximum feedback
That's their
from our neighbors.
opportunity, just like the town meeting.
If you do that, the ones that show up at a town meeting will vote you down. Maximize feedback. I'm trying to be
You're-
honest with our citizens.
Then do
I
a survey
agree with
or
you,
do the
John.
public hearing.
No, you do both.
Wait,
They're the same thing.
Why do we
talked
have,
about it- Hold on a minute, folks. We talked about a survey earlier on and that we wanted to look into it. And I thought we kind of voted that we were going to do that. So I don't think a survey is a bad idea. Certainly, we want to get as much input as we can. And we
That's
just
why
gotta-
you're having the hearing.
but well, why not? Then why are we having 3? Why don't we have 10? Like, we got to draw the line somewhere. So if we get a survey, at least we can say we did that. Go ahead, Lisa, I see you have your hand up.
so if we have our first public meeting on December 15th, and if we have this pretty close and ready to go, maybe considering some of the feedback from the 15th, if we turn this around within, I mean, I'm assuming we're probably going to keep it short to probably less than 10 questions. And we could turn that around very quickly, have people fill it out in the next 3 weeks. That will get us to maybe mid-January. And don't you think we'll get enough? Don't you think we'll have feedback in time to finish out what we're planning for the bylaw.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
So I am not quite sure if we should try to do a second survey in the time frame you just said about. One of the things I was thinking about myself is if we kind of consolidated this list, turn it into questions we can ask, use this to support the public forum meeting that we're going to have anyway, get consolidated feedback from the survey and the meeting at the same time. We reach the biggest audience we can get, turn that into a document that would be a draft that has public input, and then use the time frame you mentioned to get feedback on the draft, which would have to be refined from that point. I would think if we tried to get that late December, mid-January timing, we would do better getting that with more of a draft and feedback on where the direction is actually going, so we can make changes before town meeting. So I would think we might do better with kind of what Pete just laid out about, let's get the questions formulated. Let's support the public forum with the questions on the survey, and then get the consolidated feedback. And then we just take the matters into our own hands and draft something to the best of our ability with public input and the widest net we can get.
Sounds good. Lee, I see you have your hand up.
So just a quick, you almost had me, Tim, and then I got confused whether or not you were saying we should do the survey or we should not do the survey.
We should, to clarify that, I think we should, before this meeting ends, agree on the list that's in front of us, the questions and the topics that we would want to go onto the survey. And then it would be, we would get feedback on it in two ways. The public meeting, where you have more open-ended and opportunity for, longer responses. And then you'd get feedback on it in the survey at the same time. And then we would then.
Okay, that's what I thought you were saying. So I raised my hand to try to move us along and make a motion that we take the coming week to develop this into a survey that we can potentially approve next week, and that we send the survey out and we use functionally the same questions to be able to ask at our public hearing on the 15th.
Yes.
And I make that as a motion.
I'd like to amend your motion.
Yep, go ahead.
To pick two, I guess we could do 3 members, as that wouldn't be a quorum. So 3 members to work on this survey during the week to make it so we can have it all ready to go at the next meeting. So we're not like doing it, basically homework. That would be my thought. I'd like to amend that and make amend your motion to have 3 members of the committee make this survey based on these questions.
Before we move your amendment and the motion forward, do we feel we can't get there together right now as a team to turn these into questions that we feel comfortable with?
It's too late.
Yeah, it's pretty late.
Okay, so we don't.
Too late.
We don't feel.
I'm not willing to stay up there another half an hour, 45 minutes trying to turn this into a survey.
That's fair.
This has gone long enough.
That's fair. I just figured I'd ask if we wanted to do it now and not do homework.
Well,
Peter,
perhaps
nobody has
perhaps
seconded
if
the
there's
motion,
3
so
of
the
us who
amendment
could,
doesn't need anything except to state it.
Well, we could have 3 people stay tonight if we,
Yeah.
if you want.
yeah, and
Does
then
it
we
take,
could just get it done.
Right.
it can be done offline. And I don't see that it takes 3 people to turn this into a survey. 3
I think
people?
you have to be
Really?
careful with how you word things too, is not to be leading people in a
Yes,
certain direction.
This, yeah,
That's
these are
why I
very
think
leading.
If we have somebody develop the survey, like, we're not sending it out. We're still going to come back to the committee and we got to look at it and review it and just polish it up.
So,
And I think if we had 3 people or even 2 people, whatever you guys agree to, we just can't have 4 because that's a quorum.
to Pete's point, I'll volunteer myself. I have I mean, I'm happy to move this forward in some fashion into questions that we can approve next meeting. So I'm happy to put myself on the table.
Likewise.
I
John,
can help too.
so I think if we're okay, Lisa, John, and I can
Okay,
move forward. We don't have a quorum. We don't have to worry about us collaborating here. And we can bring it back to next week for everybody's approval. Is that?
Yep.
How about,
and once again, I'll just go over the directions that they told me from town meeting. You have to determine whether you're gonna have open-ended questions or you're gonna have multiple choice questions. And I think for things like distances and so forth, probably a good idea to have maybe multiple choice. That's basically what they said. So just, you know,
Okay. So, but
you guys are all smart, just framework what we have here.
so
And
there
come
can
up
be
with
a
something.
mixture, right? It can be a mixture of long form and multiple choice in the survey. You
Right.
just have to do one or the other.
Yeah, I think we should, because that's pretty important. I think we should have a vote on that. So.
Yeah, I think we have to have a vote.
Yeah, Tim, why don't can you make a motion of basically what you just said?
I'd like to make a motion that John, Lisa, and I take on the responsibility of turning this public forum comments into a questionnaire format, and we'll bring back to the next meeting on what is it, December 8th for approval.
I second that.
So it's been seconded. So now we can take a vote.
Okay, the vote is John,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Peter,
aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Cynthia,
Aye.
and myself as an aye. So congratulations. You have homework.
Great.
I'll say
And
thank you.
I'm just going to very quickly open up to public comment. That's the next thing on the agenda. I'm not sure, Tim, what the outside world has for us, but
Heather would like to come over. So Heather's joining now. Okay, Heather, you should be able to talk.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's late, so I'm probably in the dark there.
Oh,
I
there you
did listen in, and I did agree with most things that were discussed. And and for those who don't know, I'm from Public Health Director from Board of Health in town. And I mean, enforcement is usually kind of the key issue with what we're looking at with noise. And the Mass DEP, you know, the helps with enforcement with the that 10 decibel above the ambient, but that's on certain noise areas. You know, we were discussing all the different areas, the nuisance, you know, the animals that don't know the time frame. So the Mass DEP and enforcement using that 10 decibel is with certain sources of noise. So other sources of noise you don't really measure by decibel. But the sources of noise usually are, you know, fixed and business operations or like HVAC on top of restaurants. Sometimes, you know, that's something that Mass DEP is going to help with enforcement, which is something more along a somewhat chronic level. The other thing I wanted to say, I think you guys have it on the survey, but I think we can't ignore leaf blowers. I mean, leaf blowers are, you know, we definitely hear complaints about that. And I think I mean, that's tricky with enforcement and the decibels, but there are the other things with leaf blowers with time of day or how many are on the property or seasonality to those. Those are the main points, right? Because we're getting late, but I think we definitely should at least ask the residents about leaf blowers.
Yep. Okay, well, thank you. And the public comment being all done, I think I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
When
Oh,
they,
I guess, hold on. I guess not. Cindy?
sorry, but as new business, when we were trying to get the meeting going and we were having technical difficulties, we talked about getting people's phone numbers?
Yeah, yeah, thank you, Cindy. So in case there's a technical glitch in the future, if you guys are comfortable, send me your phone number and I'll just have it. And then if we have to call you, we'll give you a call. Is anybody comfortable or not comfortable with that, or?
I'm good
Okay.
with it.
If you're not comfortable with it, then don't send it.
Yeah.
But if you feel like you might want to be reached and we have a little snafu or something happens, just send me your phone number. I'll just put it all together, and I will once I get that, I will also share that with Peter, because if I'm absent, he's the next one up. Okay, Lisa, I see you have a hand. Yep.
Before we go, Heather had asked that we include information on industrial, commercial noises. I don't know if we addressed any of that in our questions. Or what are her suggestions around that? Is that kind of answered under Mass DEP? I don't know.
I think that's what she was saying, was that like a fan in a restaurant or exhaust fan would be measured, and that would be handled by a different set of its own rules, whatever the Board of Health deals with, I guess, whatever rules they go by.
Okay.
Guidelines.
But I know that
we
she
have to
said
get
earlier
involved.
that she wanted that maybe we needed to address it in the noise bylaw. So I don't know if the residents are asking for that, and it still needs to be somehow asked or addressed.
I thought that she just said that fixed building noises are part of really what the state guideline is intended for. I thought she said the EPA enforces that. Did I misunderstand?
Yeah, but earlier in our earlier meetings, she was asking for it to be part of the noise bylaw. And I don't know if it's because other residents have asked for that.
Hmm.
So anyways, I don't know if she's still there, or probably not. So.
Oh, and by the way, John, did you ever make any headway with I know you weren't here earlier, with the building inspector? Well,
Yeah, I thought I sent you a quick note on that. So I did hook up with the admin at the building inspector, and she relayed a message from Laura that they don't really get involved in any noise related restraining or enforcement and so forth, which is obvious.
Would they get involved with hours of operation?
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No.
Because other towns definitely part of the building permit. Like, if you have a subdivision, you can articulate exactly what you want done there as part of the building permit.
Yeah, and I also sent the note that Sherborne on one of their meeting notes a few years ago mentioned that some major new site development had actually noise constraints for that piece of permitting, which I thought was interesting in my research.
Okay, so I didn't know if maybe the planning board or zoning board, whatever boards handle those things, could articulate, equipment can't be started or run at certain times, and that would solve some trouble too. All right, well, thank you very much for everybody. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. I think we can just do it with a show of hands. I don't think we need to go down the rest. So everybody that wants to adjourn, raise your hand. Everybody says good night.
Aye.
Good night.
Thanks for everybody's time.
Aye,
Thank you.
bye.